Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. Here we are weekly, Thursdays, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. For those of you on Zoom, let us know where you're from. Welcome. You can drop in some questions and we'll for sure have some fun discussion today. Today we have Mike Archibald. Mike, what's the name of your lab?
Archibald Dental Studio and 50 Shades Dental Studio.
Nice. Archibald Dental Studio and 50 Cent Dental Studio or
50
50
Cent
Shade?
Dental Studio. Yeah.
Just kidding. 50 Shade Dental Studio. Well, thanks for being with us. Shawna Grip had some family stuff she had to take care of today, so she's not going to be here, but we will for sure cover some awesome Easy Gum content. And then Mike is going to show us some really cool stuff towards the end with nano zirconia that he's been working. All right, everyone, let's jump in. Don't be shy asking questions along the way. We're going to move quick, got a lot of ground to cover. We are talking about Easy Gum on nano zirconia today. This is Easy Gum level 3. There is a little more complexity to applying Easy Gum to zirconia. We'll cover all those steps, have some fun. Again, please ask us some questions and we'll jump in. We are here weekly on Thursdays, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. Thanks for joining us on Zoom or Facebook. Let us know where you're from. Joe, are we also on Instagram? Are we going to be going on Instagram today? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see.
I make a quick appearance on Instagram. I'm gonna
Okay.
Gabby on my content team and see if we can fire it up for at least 5 to 10 minutes today. We'll see.
Awesome. All right. So with Easy Gum, we have 3 different levels. A couple weeks ago, we covered level 1. That's the denture prototype, half strip on a denture. You can apply that in literally 3 to 5 minutes. Level 2, implant provisionals, putting a few intense modifiers underneath the strip so you get some nice, third dimension aesthetics. And then today, level 3, applying Easy Gum to the Harvest Nano Zirconia is what we're going to cover. So the level 1 and 2 are for sure more provisional type application, or that implant provisional on milled PMMA can for sure be a long-term provisional. And then Easy Gum can be applied to zirconia for a final, a longer term restoration. And we'll talk about that today. It does take around 40 minutes per arch, depending on your technique and your workflow. Love to share more about that with you, but I wanted to start and just ask the question, why? Because we've been asked this question, why would you put Easy Gum on zirconia? Easy Gum is a light cured composite, and someone might ask, or say Easy Gum is quick and easy to use. Okay, I'm enjoying it, using it, but Rob, why would I apply light cured composite to zirconia? Wouldn't it be better for zirconia just to have pink porcelain? And I think the honest answer is that Easy Gum is not intended to be a complete replacement for your ceramics, your liquid ceramics, whatever you're using there. Liquid ceramics and ceramics have been around for many years. They're proven, they work great, they're aesthetic. And we are not positioning Easy Gum to replace ceramics, but what we are saying is that it can be an alternative to ceramics. So then, okay, maybe you ask why again? Why would you even position Easy Gum as an alternative to ceramics? Well, speed. You can apply it way faster than you can with ceramics. So you're going to save a lot of labor, a lot of cost on the application time. And one of the other big unlocks is if you're doing green state polishing of your All-in-X arches, you will not have to do any final glazing on this All-in-X after sintering. So after you green state polish, you pull it out of your oven, you're not going to have to fire it. That sintering firing will be the last time you put the All-in-X arch under, intense heat for that sintering. So then we go into a polish and light cured workflow. So you're never firing that again. It is critically important to achieve bond strength with our process in our IFU. And so, and Joe, we can maybe drop that link for IFU in the Zoom chat. But step 1, for sure, you want to sandblast, roughen it up. You want that mechanical retention. and then 2 coats of the Easy Gum Bond that is also light cured. We'll go over those steps. We have a full IFU talking about you need a handheld light, so you have the higher nanometer wavelength to cure your Easy Gum Bond. You apply your strips, and then that bond strength is going to be 22 megapascals. It is a really intense bond strength. This is like 4 or 5 times the ISO standard. The ISO standard, I believe, is 5 megapascals. And so 22 megapascals is an incredible bond strength, but you got to follow the process in the IFU. Here's the workflow setup that we recommend that Shawna uses. She got some silicone tip tools, a papilla tool, and then we got some speed polish. We're going to go over everything here today. And so let's start with our zirconia arch. So this is out of the sintering oven. We want to sandblast this surface and then make sure it's nice and clean and dry. And then we're going to take the Easy Gum Bond. You only need about 1 drop for the whole arch. You're going to apply 2 coats, a coat on obviously the facial and the lingual. Apply 2 coats. And then this is a light puff of air. You're not air blasting it. You just want it to get dry. And then you're going to cure it with a handheld light. So with the Easy Gum Bond, it is required in the IFU to use a handheld light with a higher nanometer wavelength. If you go to our website, go to Easy Gum product page, we have resources there and the full IFU there, giving you the nanometers of that. When it's cured, it should be shiny and dry. It should not be wet. It should not be slippery. It should be shiny and dry. So now we're ready to lay down some modifiers. Applying these modifiers, we love the dark red plum as one of the base modifiers. Just apply it around the arch really quick. Just can put a bunch of dots around the arch. We recommend using a paintbrush and then just pulling it down in the papilla area there. Work your way around the arch, and then you can even apply some additional intense modifiers before you cure. You can apply all your modifiers at once and then cure it once to save some time. So we'll apply some dark violet in the frenum, a little bit darker color, get some of that 3rd dimension. And then if you want, you can hit it with a little bright red. Here's some great photos of applying that bright red. And then you do want to make sure that the teeth are clean. So use a little alcohol on a micro brush and make sure the teeth are clean and you don't have any residual modifiers or composite on those teeth when you're light curing. And also in the intaglio area as well. And then we'll hit it with our light cure wand, lock all those colors into place, and then we can keep going. Something that we do and recommend with zirconia to elevate the aesthetics around the gingival margin is apply some of that pink opaque right here around the junction. It'll look really nice and give you that 3rd dimension transition at the gum line. There you see it there. Some more beautiful work there. And then go ahead and lock all that in with your handheld light. You can use the handheld throughout the whole process. You don't have to use the handheld though. So the handheld is required for the bonding agent, but once you lock that bonding agent in, you can move to an LED light box like the Auto Flash or the GC Labo light. Again, the wavelength matters, the time matters. So that's all included in our IFU. So go look at that document and that'll give you all the light requirements. So then go ahead and remove the strip from the pouch or from the little tray. And then you want to warm it up just a little bit with your fingers so it's nice and malleable, nice and pliable. Go ahead and put the middle of the strip right at the midline and then press it around the arch. You can stretch it a little bit and press it around the arch. You do want to press out all of the air bubbles. You don't want any air bubbles in that strip when you apply it. So go ahead and just work your way around the arch. Then you remove the film. And then the first tool you're likely going to use is the papilla tool. It is a subtractive process. This is part of the speed of Easy Gum. You're applying it in a strip and then subtracting away the teeth to reveal those papillas. This part you're going to move pretty quick. If you get any lines on your teeth, it's from the metal instrument. Those are easy to wipe off. No worry there. Then we go to the silicone tip tools, shaping the gingival margin there. You can see some nice, root formation. Also using the Explorer to remove some of the excess material here, just to kind of, you can use the Explorer to shape and push it up, and then to scrape away some of that material that you're not using. Some more use of the Explorer tool here. You can also use some other composite tools. These are the Ivoclar pads, just to kind of shape that gingiva in place where you want. There's a couple different pads you can use, and then pointed tools you can use. I mean, there's a lot of different composite tools out there that are really popular to use. And then again, keeping those teeth clean. If you need to wipe anything off with alcohol, please do that. There we go. We see some progress on this prosthetic. And then a great little hack here is the Sponge Daddy. Just cut off a piece of a sponge. The Sponge Mama is, we have a link for that in our workflow tools on our support site, where it has two different textures. This is the thicker, more rougher texture. And then there's another side of the sponge that's got the smaller, thinner texture. So you can use that as well. Here we go, some more texture being applied. And then light curing. Light curing again with the handheld light is definitely recommended, but you don't have to do that here. You can use the any light box you want. You can use an endo file or any type of thinner tool to apply some bright red or maybe the blues for some vein formation. And then a little bit of light reddish pink. If you want to come back and add a little translucency in the inner papilla areas, you can do that. And then again, some additional veining with an endo file here. And you can really see that dark violet coming through, showing some nice third dimensional aesthetics there. And after it's all cured up, if you want to or need to, you can use a carbide burr, or I know, Mike, you were talking about you use a diamond burr. If you need to grind a little bit with the Easy Gum, you can. And then you'll steam clean and go to polish workflow. And then when you move to polishing, there's no cover gels, there's no reaction layer to worry about. The science and technology with Easy Gum, the particle size is really small, and the way that it cures, it doesn't give off that oxygen inhibition layer. So you really go from light cure directly into a polishing workflow. And we'll cover that. We recommend using speed polish, a couple tools here, the stiff bristle brush, a felt wheel, and a cotton fluffy. Some basic tools that do a wonderful job with polishing Easy Gum. So you're just going to use a stiff bristle brush and a medium speed, and you're going to apply that Easy Gum or apply the speed polish directly to the pink part. And then you can also hit the teeth as well. Apply it around the arch. And then come back with the felt wheel. And then a cotton fluffy. That cotton fluffy, a nice, inexpensive, readily available tool. You can get a bag of these on Amazon for super cheap. They do a great job. It's basically like having a polishing system at your bench, using your handpiece to apply speed polish, so you're not having to get up and go over to the lathe. One of the reasons we like speed polish is also it leaves a lot of that texture formation intact. You can absolutely use pumice and polish if you want to, but a lot of times that pumice and polish wheel will be aggressive and really kind of take down that pink, and it might overly smooth it. So if you want to preserve some of your texture, we recommend using hand pieces, using the felt wheel and the cotton fluffy. And you can see a beautiful shine coming to play here. And here it is. A beautiful nano zirconia arch completed in about 40 minutes. Again, this is an alternative. We're not saying to throw away your wonderful pink ceramics, but it is an option. It is something that's available to you. And Mike, let me just ask, what was your initial experience and reaction with applying Easy Gum to zirconia? I know you took a handpiece to it and you were trying to even grind it off because you wanted to test and see that bond strength. What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, it was very good. Like the finishing edge of it was very stable, very solid. Um, a lot of times if there isn't a good bond, especially to zirconia, everybody's going to look for an alternative and an easier way to finish out zirconia. And so I just wanted to see for myself and see how the bond worked. And the finish line of it was very, very stable. So, that's usually where we run into issues long term or down the road once it's in the mouth, is that finish junction. And even with bearing down on it and grinding on it, it was very stable. So I was really impressed with it. Just testing it out and trying it. It's exciting. We'll see where it goes. Like you said, it's an excellent alternative. Because everybody doesn't have the skill or time to apply to even learn how to layer ceramic on zirconia. And yeah, these big ones, these big pigs like this one shown, our zirconia today is, I feel like it's very stable, and we have lots of different programs to keep stability within the zirconia, but nobody wants to put a full arch back in the oven if we don't have to. So yeah, a super productive alternative, and that's a killer result. So
Awesome. Thanks for your insights on that. Again, just want to highlight the importance of the process for that 22 megapascals of bond strength. Sandblast it, 2 coats of Easy Gum, light cure with a handheld, apply your Easy Gum, light cure, and you're going to get excellent aesthetic results with a really high bond strength. So just to review the shades of Easy Gum, they come in 6 shades for the strips. You can see them all here. We followed the lucid tone system, beautiful pink shades, and then 2 opaque shades you can see here as well on the bottom. These opaque shades are fantastic for, quick and easy application. You want to mask out that monolithic denture and just put some pink on it quickly and easily. A lot of doctors and technicians love the opaque shades for that. The modifiers come in 6 different shades. You can see those here. These are the flowable syringe version of the shades of the strips themselves. So you have a flowable version to work with as well. You can apply these under or on top of the strips. Usually these are applied on top of the strips for some extra aesthetics. Your intense modifiers, we saw the dark red plum and the dark violet going underneath the strip, and then some of the bright red going underneath the strip. And these intense modifiers are really what add that third dimension and giving that depth of color with this composite, which we think gives great results. So if you want the whole system, you can get it all in one. It's in the Easy Gum Master Kit. You'll get all the strips, all the pink modifiers, all the intense modifiers. And so I'd love to share that with you if you're interested. The trial kit, if you want to get started, the trial kit comes with 4 strips original pink, the papilla tool, and the bonding agent. So this is a great place to get started. It's important to use the Easy Gum Bond. Some people have asked us, do I have to use the Easy Gum Bond? Can I use a different bonding agent? Our indication for use and all the testing that we did, the 22 megapascals of bond strength is with the Easy Gum Bond. And so to be in line with our 510K, you very much should use the Easy Gum Bond. It is a unique bonding agent that was created more out of a clinical bonding agent for bonding. We followed a similar formula for bonding direct composite restorations on teeth in the mouth that are made for long term. So it is a unique bonding agent for the extra strength long term use. The strips come in 4 strips per pack in all the shades. Here's the master kit with everything included. And then, of course, some speed polish. This is an all-in-one speed polish. You can use it for zirconia, lithium disilicate, ceramics, composites, acrylics, and metals. Polishing zirconia has been around for a long, long time. And Mike's going to share some of his passion for polished zirconia and the history of polished zirconia, which I'm excited to talk about in a few minutes. please check out our YouTube channel. We've got lots of past webinars recorded there, posted there, published there, some great places for learning. And then join the Pink Different Facebook group, scan this QR code, join the group. And we'd love to just hear from you, see your casework, give you some feedback. And we just wanted to have a place where pink aesthetics could be celebrated and shared. And this, of course, is going to highlight Easy Gum. But if you're doing wax or other type of ceramic work in pink, we welcome those posts. We want to see, any type of pink aesthetics being celebrated, shared, created and posted here in the Pink Different Facebook group. So please come over there and join. And so for today, I know that since Shawna was out, if you guys joined late, Shawna was not able to be with us today. She had some family things she had to take care of. And so we wanted to take care of everyone here. If you want a complimentary demo kit, it's going to come with 2 strips and a model that you can apply those to, and a metal tool that you can use just to play with Easy Gum, just try it out and get started. Go ahead and just send an email to sales@Harvest Dental and just say you were on the webinar and that you wanted to gain access to the complimentary demo kit, and we'll send that out to you. Just want to get you jump started in your journey. If you are going to apply this on a case in the mouth, we recommend getting the trial kit so that you have that bonding agent. But if you just want to play with it, want to see what it feels like in your hands, please send us an email and we'll get you a complimentary demo kit. So before we transition, Joe, are there any questions coming in on Zoom that we need to address?
No, somebody did just recently ask me if we could throw captions up on the screen. So I just asked a quick response question to see if there's a specific language we need that translated into.
Okay.
No specific questions on the content yet.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we are going to transition now. Mike is here. Mike, thanks for joining us. Mike has a passion and a history with the benefits of polished zirconia. And actually, before we dive in, Mike, I'd love for you to share your background. And, it stems from many years ago with Gordon Christensen and just the clinical benefit of a highly polished zirconia surface. What was your first experience with that? And what were some of the conclusions that you were discovering with Gordon Christensen and people doing that research on the value of a highly polished zirconia surface?
Well, there's been many studies done on materials in the mouth with Gordon Christensen, CRA, and my brother and I were both lucky enough to grow up in my dad's laboratory and be part of that right from the beginning of our careers. So we got to see, before zirconia even, just the breakdown of materials if they were ground on and not taken back to a polished state, but then also what that does to opposing dentition. And zirconia is questionably the most abrasive and the hardest material that we put in the mouth today. And so it was very it was right at the top for me as far as figuring out how could we make it soft enough that it would work in the mouth, that it wasn't going to break down. Because if a doctor has to adjust, it's very hard for them to get something back to a polished state. That's one thing that we found. But also our glazed materials and things like that. Glazed materials are porous, and when people grind into them, now we've exposed porosities within the material that doesn't get back to a polished state. And so acids in the mouth and things like lemon juice, Diet Coke, things like that, within months' time start eating that surface away, and we get down to whatever the raw core material was. And if it's rough, then we have a rough material, rough surface. So the pre-polishing of any material is extremely important. I personally don't use glaze materials over products if I can get away with it, and that stems from ceramic work with feldspathic crowns, and I carried that over into everything that I layer. most of my materials that I use, you see online, I micro layer the facial. That's micro layered ceramic, not micro layered glaze. We have some excellent materials out there glaze wise, but I've just seen long term what happens to those in the mouth. I personally guarantee my work 20 plus years in the mouth, and part of that, a big part of me being able to do that is the finish and the precision in the finish of what goes in the mouth. This is comfort for the patient, but also just long-term stability and aesthetics and the way that it performs in the mouth. So it all has to start with the foundation. You know, I'm super passionate about this. I waxed in my dad's laboratory and taught waxing in his school for almost 10 years. And so the importance of a fine product coming out in a casting is that the wax is extremely smooth, extremely clean. You know, we have to know a bunch of science to get something to cast smooth and have a product that we can finish out and have a really fine finished metal product. But it all started with the foundation, with the wax. And so with zirconia, my initial thought was, why would that not start with the green state? And it just wasn't that productive 10 years ago. It wasn't that productive, and it wasn't that efficient for laboratories to really implement it. But we have such advancements with printing and everything, plus the advancements with zirconia. Like our zirconia here, the very first time that I touched this zirconia was the very first case that Sash called me, and we launched and did a full mouth rehab with Dr. Dagmara Serron, and I was in-house with her. And the very first time I touched this zirconia, I realized that it was so smooth. I was able to polish it. And I immediately thought, how could I get the benefits out of that in the previous state? Because it's very hard to take a post-sintered zirconia crown to a polished state without putting an unnatural finish on it.
Yeah.
Everything
So
looks beautiful if that polish is done previous. And that's with every material. That's with gold, that's with glass, that's with zirconia as well. And so I was very excited the first time I touched it, just at how smooth it was to finish. And once I got it in my hands in green state, it was a no-brainer. I knew that we wanted to come up with the very most fine finished product in the green state that we could, and get it to come out as close to a natural tooth as possible.
So let's jump into this topic. So thanks for that context and that background. So I'm showing here a common problem where we have this margin line offset, this thick area at the margin line that is necessary for milling. A lot of design and milling parameters, you know, depending on the lab and the zirconia that you're working with, you know, it's in, you know, about 0.08, maybe 0.15-ish. This margin line offset in 3Shape, or it's, I believe, the crown border in exocad. And so now you have this thick margin line that you need to finish down. And this is common. And, you know, a lot of labs just have a process for finishing down this margin line. And wouldn't it be nice to do it in the green state? And of course, the green state is softer and you can be able to work with it easier. But then there's a couple problems. The first problem is, you know, a lot of green state zirconias, especially if they're isostatically pressed and they have larger particle sizes, that zirconia is kind of sensitive. It can start to chip or flake away. And so you really got to be careful with it. It's in a more of a fragile state. And then if you're finishing green state zirconia without a die, you're just holding the crown in your hand and finishing the green state, you know, just as is, you're kind of guessing where this finish line needs to be. And, you know, if we see a tooth preparation like this and an ideal emergence that needs to happen in this photo right here, that's a little bit more of a feather edge, which you can accomplish in zirconia, but not without extra finishing. It's really unlikely you're going to achieve this outcome in the milling process. What's going to happen is you're going to have the milling offset or the crown border applied to that design and that mill, and you're going to have this bulk or this little bit of a bulge at the margin line. And we know this, and we work with this as our reality, and there's things you can do to try to minimize this. But what we want to show here today is with the Harvest Nano Zirconia on the right here, you can have this perfectly finished margin, but also there's a die right here. And so, Mike, I wanted to show this photo and just the beauty of this margin, but you have a die. So just talk to us with what you're doing here.
Yeah. So, like you said, we wanted to eliminate the freehand green state finishing, and we wanted to go with green state completion if possible. And a friend of ours stopped by who had been, he's been in CAD CAM forever. And he said, wouldn't it be cool if we had dies that really fit green state? And my helper here, Steven, immediately jumped on it and came up with the formula to match our green state. And, because that's what I wanted. I want that margin. I don't want a gray margin that's polished afterward and finished down. Even if it's just the margin we're finishing, I want that margin to be complete. And so this is the formula shown here that Stephen applied, and it's simply the shrinkage rate. Move that decimal point over to the right 2 spots, and we actually have our equation of what fits the green state. Now that's cool, because then we can go in and we can pencil line our margin on our enlarged die. We can seat the green state to it. Now we have some stability to it. We can carefully go in, and just with polishing instruments, we can polish and finish that cervical half contour to a perfect emergence, an ideal emergence. So we have an actual flawless margin that comes out of the centering furnace. And we were very excited to see if that actually if that materialized and it fit perfectly, and it did. So
yeah, so Mike, what we have here is a build plate where you've got an upper and lower model and a couple dies, and then you just duplicated the die, and you enlarged it by 120.16%, which is tied to the shrinkage rate of the zirconia at 1.2016. So
That's
by
right.
enlarging those dies by the same shrinkage rate as the zirconia, you're then going to have an enlarged die that perfectly fits your green state zirconia. So on the left, we have your enlarged die with the green state, and on the right, here is this is straight out of the sintering oven, this nano zirconia here on the right.
That on the right is straight out of the sintering furnace, but that's hit with speed polish only. So that's right out of the sintering furnace, hit with speed polish.
Also, no glaze on that crown on the right.
No, we aren't glazing here.
And those margins look absolutely beautiful. Nice seal. Everything's going to look out great. So obviously the magic here, the simplicity here, is you have an enlarged die to work against, which is brilliant.
Yeah, of course, you can see much easier, right? Like if we use a scope, there's no guessing when we use a scope. We can see where we're going to. Same with the enlarged die. With the enlarged die, you immediately see so much more. You see so much easier. There's no guesswork, but also we can get that emergence. We can get a seamless finish. Like most people, if they do a really good job, they're freehanding that green state. And then when it comes out, they still have to go in and fine finish that margin. So if they go truly monolithic, they have a different polish on the margin area than they do the rest of the crown, or they have to sandblast and go back and stain and glaze or whatever technique they use to finish out. And so, we've eliminated that completely with the green state completion of our product. We take it all the way through the finishing to the die, but then we actually go through polishing the same way we would a gold crown, just with tools and instruments provided by Harvest and other people. There's many green state finishing tools out there, but the ones that I'm going to show today are the Harvest tools. And we go through and I polish. I go through the exact same process and mental process and steps that I do with a gold crown. I take a tapered point and I go through my anatomy and everything, and I highlight lobes and all of that. So when it comes out, it actually has different lusters, and even if you texture, you can have the paracomata and all of that. So
wonderful. We're going to go hands-on here in a few minutes. One of the unlocks here with this process too is the the small particle size of the nano zirconia. So the particles are actually the size of like tobacco smoke. They are very, very small, fine particles. And nano zirconia is a binder-less zirconia. There are no binders used in the manufacturing process. So then these particles have a really high density. That's why you'll notice the shrinkage rate of the nano zirconia is less than the shrinkage rate of the average isostatic press zirconia. And wanted to highlight this, like if you were to take a regular isostatic press zirconia and polish it to as high of a shine as you can get it to, you're gonna see some level of porosity. And where if you take the nano zirconia, that surface finish is going to be a luster, high shine, very little to no porosity. And if you even zoom here, again, you can really see the surface difference of each of these surfaces. And that is achieved through the small particle, high density process of how we make the harvest nano zirconia. And so, Mike, here's a video of you finishing one of the margins down to your enlarged die. So maybe just talk through this video, kind of what you're doing, what you're thinking here in this process.
Yeah, so this is the cervical third and margin area. Once I get close to the margin, I have my margin marked, and just like finishing the margin with any restoration, I want to take away half of my pencil mark on my margin, and then I know it's completed. It's totally complete. So without a die, you really can't do that. And this is on a prep that's a feather edge prep. And so you mentioned the particle size of the zirconia. The very first crown we tried this on was a feather edge posterior prep. No medium or heavy chamfer anywhere. It's a legit feather margin and very light chamfer. And the stability of it in the green state finishing stage was super impressive. Like it was very easy to handle. And so, I've had many people comment on, well, I don't know about I don't want to implement the people handling green state that much. Well, they're already doing that anyway. Somebody's already cutting it out of the puck. Somebody's already finishing the sprues off. Like, why not go ahead and just finish the margins down so we have a premium product coming out of the sintering furnace? It just requires a die to do that, but we can do that. I've tried green state finishing with many other zirconias, and a lot of them, when you get down to a very fine edge, they become brittle. They become brittle, they flake away, and anybody that's ground on them sees this, and they know this, and it can become very brittle. This is very, very stable. So this is a zirconia crown shown here with zero finishing done to it. That's just right out of the sintering furnace, and that's just all pre-polishing. That's all pre-polishing that was done.
Green state polished, sintered, and you haven't touched it yet. Maybe you'll hit it with a little speed polish, but right now this is looking really, really good. My favorite part here is just the intimacy of that margin is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's really up to whatever anybody wants. I'm trying to match natural teeth. Most of my docs send me pictures in the mouth of what I'm trying to match. So I'm actually looking at lusters of what the other teeth are. I want my teeth to perform and reflect like the other teeth. I don't just want it to be a glossy marshmallow in there compared to everything else. And so this is actually like a perfect finish coming out of the furnace. And it's very easy to go in with either the P3 polisher or the speed polish with a brush or a felt wheel. Then you can hit the whole surface. But if you wanted to hit isolated areas, the P3 polisher is excellent on zirconia, and you can just highlight lobes, line angles, primary ridges, things like that, and you come out with a very, very nice result on full contour zirconia with very minimal effort.
Awesome, man. I can't wait to see. And here's one finished crown, a little bit of speed polish, which you're gonna kind of talk us through, and then we've got some content to show on that. So here's your current setup, some of the different tools you're using in the green state.
Yeah.
And then so you ready to maybe switch to your overhead cam?
Let's do
and
it.
then you can kind of walk us through some of the stuff that you're doing there.
But we don't have a very talkative crowd today, Rob. I even tried to let them know that you only pay me per question to try to get them out.
Yep, that's it. Yeah.
No dice on the questions. We'll have to see if they can just absorb the genius of Mike.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Lee
Sorry.
Jr. has a question. We have our first question. What are the shades available in the nano zirconia? Rob, you might be able to answer that one.
Yes, I will go to the Harvest website and just pull those up really quick. Believe it or not, I don't have them all memorized. So we've got so the thicknesses we have are the 14, 18, 22, and 25. We are bringing on some 10s and 12s. The shades, the classic Vita shades, A1, 2, 3. We do have an A3.5 and A4, B1, B2, B3, a C1, C2, C3, C4, a D2, a D3, a D4, and an OM2. So that is the shade family. You can check that out at harvestdental.com and click on our nano zirconia page. Mike, you are frozen.
Yeah, that's a good look, isn't it?
Yeah, buddy.
I don't want to butcher the name. Kuzay, I think it is asking, how do we get the product in Jordan, or do we have any plans to get it in Jordan?
Great question. Currently, the nano zirconia is only available in the U.S. market. It is not ready for export yet, but we, of course, Harvest products are distributed in 60 countries, and we do desire to be a global brand. However, for this product, it's only registered to sell in the United States for now. So,
Gabriel,
but
on your chat situation. Lee also asks, are there any other plans for other bleach shades?
yeah, we are looking at bringing on some other bleach shades. As you see right now, we just have the OM2, and you can, the OM1 and OM3, you can actually just adjust your high temp and your firing by 5 to 10 degrees higher or lower and achieve those other bleach values. But we are working on some other bleach shades, the BL1, BL2, BL3, and BL4, but they're not quite available yet. Well, Mike, are we gonna lose the overhead cam for today? We could just show some more videos.
Yeah, I'm trying to hop back in here and it's not letting me back in. I'm sorry about that.
So in your Zoom, when you click on the video, it's not letting you select your second camera there?
No, it's not even letting me select. Are you able to see me? I'm even trying to go back to me and it's got me cut off now. So.
Well, let's just have the show go on here.
We've got a question from Gabriel. Finally got the ability to communicate with him. Is there a nano zirconia for veneers?
Given the ability to mill the nano zirconia much thinner, Mike, you actually are in the process of testing some veneers, but I know like on the crown side, we have labs milling the margin as thin as 0.05, 0.08 is pretty common. So I'd say give it a try. Let us know, share some photos. It is a beautiful multi-layer transition. It's got like an incisal blue-gray at the incisal part of the disc. So keep that in mind when you're orienting your veneers in the puck. But I've not seen any cases yet, although I have heard of some technicians keeping an eye on it to try it.
Yeah, I think if you go 0.08, then what we've had great luck with 0.08. We've gone down to 0.05 and we got on extremely feathered out margins. We got a few chips, just a few chips, but you know, you're getting into the stability of everything, the machinery and everything at that point, you know. So it's not I mean, I just, we're asking a lot, but I want to push it and see how far you can go. But I think somebody's safe, honestly, to mill veneers at this point from what I've seen, if they have 0.08 on their offset.
Yeah. So Mike, since your overhead cam's not working, maybe just talk us through some of these tools that you're using. We've got a couple polishing wheels, some polishing discs, and a felt wheel in the green state. Maybe
Yeah.
just talk us through your process.
Yeah. So on the far left there, you see something straight out of the mill, you know, with the sprue leads still attached and pretty rough. And so, you know, some people go at that with carbides. You can go at that with whatever you feel like. I like to stick with polishing instruments simply because I want to have no vibration when I'm grinding on green state. I want to eliminate all vibration. So these green state finishing points from Harvest, as you see, the one on the far left is what I use to remove sprues and any bulk that I have on the restoration in the cervical third. Once I get down to where I have the contouring close to where I want to, then I can get into the actual polishing, and I can use that second tip there to start going through anatomy and hitting lobes, line angles, things like that. And then we have that finer point, that third instrument, starting from the left side coming over. And I run through all my anatomy, go through my fossa, hit any secondaries, leaving other little areas so that they have a little bit more of a dull finish. And then me personally, after I go with the gray polishing point, I just go straight to my felt wheel. The felt wheel I like because it really is compact, and it is really soft, and it puts a high shine, a high luster just on the areas that I want, rather than hitting everything. You showed that fluffy wheel earlier that Shawna is using on hers, and that's a great wheel also. That what that's going to do is hit the whole surface. That's going to get down into every single groove and everything, and give you the same finish everywhere. If we want to give something more of a natural or two-tone finish, you know, higher lusters in certain areas, then hit it with the felt wheel, because it's not going to go down into your grooves or your primary grooves as much, and it's going to reflect and look more like a natural tooth. It's just going to hit our high points. So that's why I like sticking with the ones that I just mentioned. We do have the little finger wheels, you know, like these little octopus type wheels with the fingers on them. We have the pink and the gray. The pink is a medium fine, and the gray is like a high shine. These both work excellent in green state, as well as post-centered zirconia and disilicate. You know, what I like to do, you can see on the pink one, how it has kind of a square edge on the teeth. And you see on the gray one how they're a little bit more round. I like to go just with a truing stone and round the corners of my fingers.
Gotcha.
And then you aren't going to get any scratches from that square edge that's on those little fingers. And it works excellent. And you can go and you can use that over the whole surface, or you can go and hit isolated areas with those very well. I also, if I can mention, those greening, the gray and the pink finger wheels, I like to use those in post centering also, or people that glaze their products. These are excellent for going back and toning stuff down. If it's too shiny, you can hit it with the pink one, and you can actually dull the surface and give it more of a natural finish on your glaze or your finished out product. So when mine comes out of the sintering furnace, we go over to the images on the right, or the instruments that I have in the two zirconia centered restorations. The one on the left is right out of the furnace. The one on the right is just hit with the bristle brush and the polishing, the speed polishing paste.
Yeah, when we talk through your speed polish workflow here.
Yeah, so this is right out of the sintering furnace. This is the finish that we're getting and the fit that we're getting, and that actually is good enough. You can see the shine on it. That's right out of the sintering furnace. So I can go through and hit this with the polishing paste, and it's going to give me a very even high shine finish over the whole surface, just like we would with gold crowns or anything else. Everybody's polished with brushes, so we know how good they hit the whole surface. But this literally takes seconds to take to an extremely high shine. If I go in with my felt wheel, which I don't have a video uploaded here, I like using a felt wheel a lot of times because, like I said, then I can hit more isolated high points like line angles, primary ridges, marginal ridges, cuss tips, things like that. And I can leave more of those subtle neutral areas or secondary areas a little more dull, which makes it perform more like a natural tooth. But here you see that's just with polishing paste in a couple seconds and a bristle brush. And the only thing that we're hitting on our restorations on posteriors now is contacts. We just lightly dust the contacts, adjust the contacts in, and polish it, and that's it. So, yeah.
So because of your time spent in Green State, how much time are you spending on a crown like this after the sintering oven?
You just saw it.
So like a minute.
Yeah, other than adjusting our crowns, we add just a little bit to our contacts. We don't add gross amounts to our contacts. We're careful about what we add, and we have certain protocols to what we add, but I try to get the same results as I would a gold crown. I want to just adjust that area that's contacting the adjacent tooth. And so we just add a certain amount. And so we're very minimal. We're a couple minutes and our crown's finished.
Wow. So the magic is doing the work in the Green State. You've got your enlarged die on the left. You've got a high density, small particle zirconia that's not gonna, flake away or chip on you. And so then after sintering, it's really just final QC, a little speed polish, and you're done.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely, we have videos that we'll upload of Stephen and how long that protocol takes for him to duplicate the dies. But anybody that's actually building models, they know that it doesn't take long to copy and paste and then enlarge. That's as long as it takes to create the dies. Am I still live? You hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you.
Okay.
We've kind of
Yeah,
lost
I'm sorry. I can't get my video to come up. So but it's the same principle as a luxury car, honestly. Like a very fine luxury automobile has very fine bodywork. And that's what our Green State is. It's doing fine bodywork to the restoration so we can kick out a fine luxury product at the end. Like painting the pig, you can go to Mako or any of these other hack shops and you can get a $200 paint job and the car looks kind of shiny coming out, but it has no depth. It has no clarity. That's the same with our ceramic and even gold that isn't polished appropriately. It doesn't look like water, but our ceramics, if they're highly polished and they're smooth in the ceramic, not in glaze that's on top, but in the ceramic, the optical properties are night and day. And so for us, we want to be able to offer our clinicians and our partners something different, and our patients, we want to give them the very best, something that performs optically the very best, but also holds up 20 plus years in the mouth. And that's why we've gone this route. It does save us a lot of time and money because it's much easier to finish Green State than post-centered. It's much faster. But it's a finer product. It's a luxury product in comparison. So,
Rob,
yeah. So
having me on.
Kelly, sorry about that. Kelly's chiming in asking about what about full arch for Green State?
Absolutely, Kelly. Thanks for that question. We covered that a couple weeks ago, and the steps that Mike talked about today, you can absolutely apply those same steps to your full arch Green State. And I wanted to show here, I'll go all the way back to my slide here. Let me show this again just for Kelly. And in fact, Kelly, I'll just do a custom build for you so you can see this here. So this this prosthetic right here is untouched out of the sintering oven. This is green state polished, sintered, and then now you're looking at it. So this is what it can look like. And so the felt wheel, some of the really fine polishing wheels that do a fantastic job, basically get that green state polish to a high shine. And this is what it will look like after it's sintered. And so then when it's in this like high luster, I mean, this is almost to a complete polish here, straight out of sintering. When you hit this prosthetic with a little bit of speed polish, it's going to be very shiny. So Kelly, great question. Same tool, same process for full arch zirconia. Particle size does matter. It really, really does. I mean, we'll go back to this slide here. If you're using a zirconia that doesn't have a really tight particle size, like a lot of isostatic press zirconias have a larger particle that are held together by binders, you will see porosity in the green state. And so I'd love to see what you guys are seeing out there. Share some photos with me, polishing your current zirconia in the green state, polishing nano zirconia in the green state. I'm betting you will tell a difference, and I'd love to see. I'd love to hear you tell me about that. But great
Hey,
question, Kelly.
Robin, this one's specifically for you, Mike. This comes from Gabriel. Does the zirconia after polishing have an opalescence look to it?
Great.
Oh, you're on.
Mike, you're on mute. Mike, you're on mute.
There, how's that?
It's
Yes.
great.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to eliminate, right? Is anything that's polished post-centered. If we're going in and finishing something, it takes on that opalescent look. If we take it to a high shine, post-centered, just polished. And so,
well, hold on, Mike. But talk about that and how what you're speaking of is traditional isostatic press zirconia. When you're really, really working it with a lot of polish and a lot of time,
yeah,
that opalescence occurs. But because of the green state with nano, are you getting any opalescence that you're worried
zero.
about?
No, zero. What was shown today was the very first one that we did. That was the very first one that we green state finished, and it's only going to get better. We're going to be able to put all the natural different finishes that we want on it with only highlights left to put on. All zirconia is, if you leave too much to polishing post center, if you leave too much to that process, you're going to end up with an opalescent type finish, or that abalone
seashell.
that
Seashell.
abalone look. And so the nano doesn't take on that, but it does if we left it just raw zirconia, not pre-polished, and we left it all to post-center polishing, we would get an effect that wouldn't be like what I showed either. Like why we wanted to do the pre-polishing was just to eliminate the post-polishing. It's much easier to polish green state than it is to post-polish centered. Like that previous image that you just showed of the nano versus the other zirconia, it's a much higher shine on the other zirconia just to get it up to a shiny surface, but then it just highlights all those imperfections. The nano, because it's so dense and smooth, like I said, the way that it came out of our centering furnace, I really don't have to touch anything other than the contacts. It's just whether I want highlighted areas. So it's very, very minimal what we're actually applying pressure and time-wise to the surface. It's very minimal, seconds.
So Mike, so you'd say that the key to avoiding the opalescence is green state polishing for sure.
Yeah.
And then having that high density, small particle zirconia like the nano.
Yeah, it allows you to go at a low RPM. All the instruments that I use, I'm like 10 to 15 on my RPMs. I'm not cranking it up to 35 and 50, even though everybody's NSK goes up super high. Like we shouldn't be polishing at a very high speed. You're burning the surface, you're burning your instruments too. Our instruments last a long time, and the ceramic or zirconia. The zirconia performs a lot like ceramic in the polishing of it if we respect it the same. So
yeah, Mike, I heard, I don't know if it's true. Tell me if you have knowledge on this, that a lot of the opalescent effect happens because of heat, because of like overworking that polished surface. You're now applying heat to the zirconia surface, and that is what causes the opalescence. Is that true?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know that. I mean, I try to respect restorations. I'm not trying to grind on things ever heavily. Like grinding is the biggest waste of time. And you know, I grew up teaching in a school, and I've worked in and taught and been part of big high production laboratories across the country. And grinding is the biggest waste. And if we have to bear down and grind really hard on any product, we're risking the integrity of the product. But whether that creates the eggshell finish or not, I don't know. I think it's just simply the overworking, having to overwork the surface. That's what I've seen, but I don't know. I don't know the science
Okay.
behind that yet, but I definitely am going to come up with the exacts on that for you.
So
I'm curious.
Jimmy's asking a question. Jimmy Fincher, how true to shade is there zirconia? The only reason I glaze is because I have to stain to achieve the proper shade.
Yeah, I would say,
So
sorry.
go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike. I'll let you chime in first, and then I have some
I
thoughts.
would say personally, so I've worked with many zirconias and many laboratories, but most people know my brother and how hardcore he is into CAD CAM. We've had the availability to use many and all zirconias that we want to test and evaluate. And I haven't found anything that's more true to the shade guide that I've seen yet than the nano zirconia. That I was extremely excited about, because then it's just a matter of dialing in your centering furnace temperatures and programs to get the actual value and what you actually want out of it. But chroma wise, it's excellent. It's super close to the shade guide.
And you just highlighted the most important point. If your goal is to center and then polish and be done, then of course the shade has to be bang on. I was talking to a lab friend of mine who's doing this nano workflow, green state polishing and post center polishing, and he was saying, Rob, I treat my sintering ovens like my ceramists now. I calibrate them every week. Because if you're off by 5 to 10 degrees, if your high temp is off, even by 5 to 10 degrees, it will affect the value. And so, you know, using those calibration rings and making sure that your oven is calibrated like on point is critically important to, you know, nail the shade. And when your ovens are calibrated and when you nail that shade, it is after center, a little bit of polish and done. But if your high temp is 10 degrees high or 10 degrees low, it will affect the value.
Right.
So
Right. And I mean, just like porcelain, like every temperature and every manual for every material is a starting point. You know, everybody needs to see what that to get the best performance out of the product in their laboratory, their hands. They need to be aware of their equipment, and that takes constant calibration of all of that stuff. But we can get, you know, my brother was the first one that showed that I saw anyway, how to get the best performance out of zirconia with the centering furnace programs. And, you know, for me and a lot of people, I mean, that it wasn't just with the zirconia he was using. It was obvious at that point, it was with every zirconia, you know, like it is just like ceramic in that sense, is we're going to get the most optimum optical properties out of it if we take the time to dial in our programs. And there's many people out there we can refer to now and help with that. But yeah, with every zirconia and this one included, you know, we're going to tweak it a little till we get the exact effect that we want. We want it to come out just like a shade tap, and we'll get there.
of course,
I'm confident.
of course.
Have you ever used the Argon Z HT Plus?
Have
That's
I
what
used it?
that's what Gabriel's using. He didn't really ask a question. He was just putting that out there. I feel like he was fishing around to see what your opinions were.
Well, you know what, Argon's a great company. Argon's a great company, and I have used their zirconia, but I choose this. So I'm excited about this mostly because the fine particle size. I'm very big on what goes into the patient's mouth. I have restorations in my own mouth, anybody out there that doesn't have restorations in their mouth, I don't think they should be producing work for other people's mouths. They don't know what it's supposed to feel like. And as soon as you have your own work that you think is fucking awesome in your own mouth, you realize what's awesome about it and what's not. And so something with a fine particle size like nano, I can't say enough about it. Like something that can be taken to a fine finish is obviously going to hold up the longest and feel the best in a patient's long term without a bunch of candy topping. So
Gabriel, I also love Argon. I love the people there as a company, respect them like crazy. Gabriel, I would love for you to do a green state polish of Argon versus nano and send me an email. I'd love to just see it side by side. Green state polish, how it looks, and then post center polish, how it looks. I'd love to see if there is a difference, how noticeable it is. So please send me a photo of that.
I will do that. We're leaning into this. I know that we've come up with something that's eliminated a couple little basic things that is improving our efficiency, and there's been a little bit of a disruption even with some closest friends. And so I am going to put out the exact same results with different zirconias because I want to be sure of what I'm using and why. And so I love what I love, and I love a lot of products from different companies, but I will absolutely always tell the truth. So yeah, photos is the best way to document and show that. So yeah, I'll be getting that photo to you pretty soon.
Cool. Sweet. Can't wait to see that. Any other questions coming in? This was great. A lot of questions, rapid fire towards the end.
I think they felt bad for me because they thought I was only going to get paid if they asked questions. So
I know. Dang. Now your paycheck just went up.
Exactly. So I also dropped our emails in the chat, but I'll do it one more time real quick right here so you guys can take a screen grab and reach out to me and Rob if you need any help getting situated with your products.
And you know what? Like I'll get with you guys and share a link with my email also if we want to put that out. I'm going to put together a video with these polishing points that I wasn't able to show today. I'm sorry, I had camera trouble. So I'll put together something and we can fire that off to anybody that wants to actually see the process and how long that takes. I'm happy to put it together and we'll get it sent to you here in the next week.
Thank you, Mike. That'll be fun.
All right, man.
All right, Joe, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Do we have a cheer now? For being here. Do we have a cheer before we go? What do we do?
Yeah.
Yay, nano. Green state.
Green state on 2.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
See you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.